Don't do anything stupid. Sounds like the words of a parent to a teenager before a night out on the town, not the warning to a staff of BBC News, but it was. The staff was told point blank not to do anything stupid after an editor violated the Beeb's social media policy. Jasmine Lawrence tweeted, "Why I'm voting UKIP to stand up for white, middle-class, middle-aged men with sexist, racist views, totally underrepresented in politics today." Of course, meant to be somewhat sarcastic there. That account has since been disabled. So when we talk about conflict of interest here, Lawrence was actually working on election coverage for the BBC.
And UKIP is the United Kingdom Independent Party, which, by the way, won a lot of seats in the European Parliament, as did many other, some people will call them far right or right wing or whatever parties. And so for her to be covering this and then basically accusing them, as she did in her tweet, she deserved to be pulled from that coverage at the very least. And there are some people who say she should be fired from the BBC. I don't know about that, but she certainly should be punished and held up as an example of what you don't do.
We have been talking around the journalism school for a very long time about best practices with journalists and social media, and clearly this would be a case study to show what not to do. But I think it shines the light on the fact that too many journalists are using social media as an extension of themselves, and they don't recognize the difference between a social media that represents them personally and sometimes how that might be linked to what they do professionally. I just think there needs to be greater awareness by all journalists who are using social media about how to use it well and what to avoid.
So here's a question I would have for you. Looking at that, we've seen journalists here in the United States who've made missteps like that using social media, and in a lot of those cases they would be fired. Having just been pulled off of the election coverage, is that a cultural difference? Are there different standards maybe among the European press in England as there might be here? I don't think she would have just been pulled off of the election had that happened here.
Well, and the BBC has been under a barrage from folks in Great Britain and elsewhere for some while, as one, being leaning to the left, two, being publicly financed at a time when there are private media who could conceivably be filling the gap for the BBC, but it is still a world-class news organization. And they have tried, by putting out policies like this, to keep their journalists from stating their political opinions on the air. This is a really age-old argument, though. Let's just say that you don't do anything stupid. You don't wear your political leanings on your sleeve. You have political leanings.
We all
and
do.
they're going to affect the kinds of stories you choose to cover or not cover and how you cover those stories.
I don't think there's any question. You know, you can say you're unbiased. You have biases. You need to know what those biases are, and you need to guard against those when you are trying to be an independent journalist. That said, are there cultural differences? There are, and depending on where you go on the far reaches of the earth, you're going to find different rules apply to different folks. Nonetheless, this one, if you're covering politics or if you're on the political desk, stay away from political issues on social media.